And thank you very much, Ambassador. And first, I want to thank the Ambassador for helping us in so many different ways. She does an amazing job. She represents the outstanding part of the Foreign Service in the United States. They're just great. And second, thank all of you for coming and making time. I am joined by we are a powerful team, and that's what got this aid passed in the Senate. Just great teamwork on part of our caucus, and we have 4 of the strongest leaders on Ukraine here. Senator Reid, you'll hear from each of them after you hear from me. Senator Reid, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Bennett, Senator Hassan. So first, why are we here? We had to be here. We had to be here. There was no choice. This is an imperative, an obligation, because so much is at stake. So much is at stake here in Ukraine. Obviously, the freedom of Ukraine is at stake, and that is so, so important, not only to the Ukrainian people, but to the world. These beautiful people who we have seen and learned about on our trip here and before need our support, but it goes beyond that. We are here because the United States right now is at a turning point, an inflection point. If we don't stand by our allies around the world will shirk and move away from us. If we let our enemies, the autocrats of the world, succeed here, they will not stop. They will not stop. And we will see greater trouble and conflict in Europe, but not just in Europe. In China, with Iran, with the Middle East, and everywhere else. And the United States, which has done so much for freedom in the world, for peace in the world, for security in the world, particularly since World War II, if we turn our back on Ukraine, it has implications that go for a long time. And it will mean that for decades, America will lose out diplomatically, politically, economically, and militarily. So we had to be here. We are so impressed with President Zelensky, his strength and his power and his commitment. We commented he looks younger today than he was 2 years ago with all the when we first met him, with all the travail on his shoulders. He's an amazing man. And we have come here to tell the Ukrainian people, we are with you. The United States is with you. We will not abandon you. We will fight and fight and fight to get this needed aid to you and to your brave soldiers. We went to the cemetery, one of the cemeteries. It was a parking lot until a while back. We saw newly dug graves because there will be more people who will die. And we saw the faces of the brave men and women who had lost their lives, some of whom had lost their lives inevitably because they didn't have all the ammunition that they needed and the need to protect themselves. And so we're here to tell the Ukrainian people, we stand with you. We're also here to tell Europe we are not abandoning Europe. The United States will not abandon Europe. We have to stay there, part of NATO, which has been the most successful alliance, one of the most successful alliances in history. We cannot abandon them, and we're telling Europe and NATO that. We're also here to let America know the consequences of not doing this important supplemental package, which contains the military and economic aid that Ukraine so desperately needs. We have been told by President Zelensky, we have been told by American and Ukrainian officials that without the aid, Ukraine will lose the war, with the dire consequences to the United States and the West. They will lose the war. We were told that at Avdiivka, if there had been more weaponry available, the outcome would have been different. More ammunition, the outcome would have been different. We were told by an American official that if Ukraine doesn't get the aid, Putin could be right at the Polish border all too soon. All too soon. So without the aid, Ukraine, America should know, Speaker Johnson and the House Republicans should know, without the aid, we will lose the war. But conversely, we were told by just about everyone we saw, American, Ukrainian, military, political, diplomatic, that if they get the aid, if Ukraine gets the aid, it will win the war. Ukraine is valiant. It has great people, great fighters. They're not asking for a single American to die on the battlefield of Ukraine, but simply give us what they need. And there are many things they need, but we outlined some of them, including air defense, which has been so successful, including HIMARS and ATAC-Ms, including remote anti-mining and long-term ammunition, all of which is in the supplement, is made available in the supplemental package that we passed in the Senate with a very strong vote. We are here to talk directly to Speaker Johnson. We are going to do all we can to tell him what we have learned and, frankly, to pressure him to do the right thing. We tell Johnson that the weight of history is on his shoulders. And if he turns his back on history, he will regret it in future years. We are here to tell Speaker Johnson, come to Ukraine. Visit just who we visited and anyone else you want. See what we saw. And it will be virtually impossible for any person of decency and goodwill to turn his back on Ukraine. So we'd ask him to come here. Speaker Johnson, come to Ukraine, see what we saw, witness what we've witnessed, and we're confident that if you did that, you would understand how important it is to have this aid. And we also tell Speaker Johnson, don't let politics get in the way of something so important. Don't let this, it's not the same as 1938, but there are similar resonances. It's not the same as 1916, but there are similar resonances. And we tell Speaker Johnson, don't let politics get in the way. Don't let blind obeisance to Donald Trump prohibit you or your colleagues from voting for this package. If Speaker Johnson put this bill on the floor today, we're confident it would pass with a large number of both Democrats and Republicans. So it's really in his hands. Again, Speaker Johnson, history is looking down upon you. They're looking over your shoulder. Rise to the occasion. Finally, on a personal note for me, my ancestors came from a place 3 hours from here called Chortkiv. When the Nazis rolled into Chortkiv in 1941, they asked my great-grandmother to assemble her larger family, which was well known in the community, on her porch. And about 35 people gathered from ages 85 to 3 months. And they made the Jewish people gather in the town square to witness. They told my grandmother, leave, you gotta leave, all of you leave, you gotta leave Chortkiv. She said, we're not moving, and they machine gunned all of them down. I would have had a lot more aunts and uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, had the world stood up to the brutal dictator named Hitler. Well, there's another brutal dictator, Putin, challenging the world. And if we don't stop him, it will have huge and unforeseen consequences for Ukraine, for Europe, for the United States, for the world. We must stop him by supporting this aid package to Ukraine. Chairman Reid.